Right, good morning guys, welcome to another week of online IT. We're continuing with the distinction piece of work over here, which is the evaluation of the potential negative impact that IoE innovations might have on business. This assignment is due in on the 30th of May, so that's a week on Wednesday. And so far we've covered the data section and the information gathering devices section. So last week you've had time to do some in-depth research into those areas and time to actually write up and document your findings for both of those sections. So if you're on track to meet the deadline, that's where you should be currently. Today's lesson, we're going to look at this converting data strand, okay, and in a similar way I'm going to give you time to research that. We'll hopefully populate some articles on Padlet with some useful information that you can then use, and then you can actually also begin the write-up. Tomorrow we're going to focus on the remaining three sections of this particular report. Remember, this is a distinction, so it is the most substantial piece of work you've done yet, hence the reason why you're getting quite a bit of time to work through these different areas. Okay, so the process section, or the software section, if we just kind of talk about what this entails. We've talked about the data section and the issues and challenges around collecting data. We've looked at the information gathering devices, or the physical hardware. Okay, so it also makes sense then that we should also focus on the software side of things as well. And once we've got the devices, the physical devices collecting the data, we obviously need software to actually convert it and process it and make it into useful information. But there's also obviously going to be a set of challenges then that relate to being able to do that effectively. Now, one of the things that might already beginning to sort of come into your mind from last year is this idea of being able to generate good quality information, which is going to be a challenge for businesses, and it's going to need to meet those characteristics of CAT-FIR. And if you want to, you can sort of bring that in straight away and explain the need for good quality information and why it's going to be so important for businesses. If the IoT that they're using isn't generating that good quality information, then it's going to cause them potential issues. Okay, now to kind of maybe give an example of that in an IoT context, if I just tab on, and hopefully you can find your own examples of this too. This was an experiment that was done to sort of test the accuracy of fitness trackers. So they asked a group of participants to wear a range of different makes of fitness tracker. In this case, we've got a range of different Fitbits actually. And the participants wore these different activity trackers. They wore them for the same duration. And then the idea was that because they'd each worn several fitness trackers, that at the end of the experiment, when you've looked at the data that each tracker generated for that individual, the results should have been the same. So for example, the same step count or the same calories burnt should have been consistent across the devices that individual was wearing. What they actually found in terms of the results was that there was quite a large variation. So which fitness tracker was the accurate one? The fact that these are all commercially available fitness trackers is slightly worrying in terms of, there's such a big range of information that's generated. So how do you actually know which is providing the best quality information? And therefore you might be making decisions about your health based on information that's not accurate. Okay, and that would be a nice example. So you could do some research into that and see if you can find out more about that particular study and exactly what happened. But can you find other examples as well as where IoE devices have generated information that's then been inaccurate or unreliable or created a problem somewhere? So that'd be a really good starting point to see if you can find examples of IoE sort of disasters or problems, and make sure it's just focused on the software aspect in terms of the information that was generated. Okay, building on that, another place that you could certainly discuss in this particular part is the use of analytics and AI. So I'll just take the text off there. So obviously a lot of these IoE devices are going to be interlinked with the increasing use of artificial intelligence to actually manage and maintain and produce and provide the information that businesses need without them actually having to pay staff anymore to do it. but already there are examples where technology that has relied on artificial intelligence has gone wrong. And Tesla is a good example of this, where we have actually already seen with the Tesla self-driving car a fatal incident where the car was actually in autopilot and the AI did not detect someone crossing the road, and therefore there was this fatality. Okay, so you could make the general point there that a lot of IoE devices will rely on the use of artificial intelligence, and if that artificial intelligence isn't really well designed and really well tested, then issues like the Tesla situation could occur. Okay, but see if you can find other examples. So have a look for other examples of AI stories where the software hasn't quite done what it should have done, and therefore it's created an issue for a business. Okay, and you can just make that general point, because AI and IoT are going to become very much intermeshed going forward. Okay, building on maybe the timeliness aspect of the of information, but you could also talk about this challenge, and I think these ones kind of sort of tie in together. Perhaps these 3 points here around the challenges that businesses will have, because they'll be collecting so much data from so many different sources. It's going to be a big challenge to actually process that data and deliver it to the people that need it in a timely fashion. Also, and a sort of bit of overlap here perhaps with the data section, but you're going to need a lot of processing power to actually be able to do that, to be able to do it in the first place as well. So again, you could highlight back to some costs that businesses are going to face in relation to having the servers and the processing power to be able to do this effectively. Down at the bottom here as well, you've got the issue about the amount of data as well that's being collected and will need to be processed by the software. Okay, so anything to do with those areas, by all means do see if you can find some information and sort of post those onto Padlet too. Okay, the last big area that I want you to focus on, and you should hopefully find lots of research and articles in relation to this, but as a business, of course, if you're looking at getting into IoE, as we've just said, it's not just the physical hardware you need to develop, it's also the software as well. And software is a complex thing to produce. Okay, and you could just highlight here, you can do some research. You're going to need some software engineers and some programmers, so some expertise. Well, that's going to be quite costly and expensive, so you can maybe find out about that particular cost and how much you need to pay these kinds of individuals to create and develop software. It also takes a lot of time to develop and create software as well. Okay, often far more than the actual physical product itself. So anything that you can find there about the cost of IoE developments, the cost of the software developments, the cost of the development of the applications you're going to need both on the desktops and the apps and in the cloud as well. So anything to do with that and the statistics around the time, duration and cost of doing it, then throw that into this particular assignment as well. And then the last two sort of tie in together as well. But you'll find lots of examples of software failures and project failures and difficulties with testing software as well, to make sure that it operates in a reliable fashion. So again, any information that you can find that's relevant to software development, if you can find it in an IoE context, fantastic. But I think you can just make the general point as well. If you're just searching for issues with software development in general and you're finding good statistics and examples, then I think it's fair enough that you can then say, well, these are also potentially relevant, to the development of software in an IoE context as well. Okay, so that's your focus for today. Research, get it all onto Padlet, and then I'll be back tomorrow to explain the final 2 sections, and then it's over to you guys to finish the assignment.